impact, more than just a game.
Ever since the Dallas Mavericks traded Luka Dončić, it's like they've been running a social experiment to see how quickly a fan base can lose its mind. We're not just talking about a few bad games here. We're talking about fans chanting, "Fire NICO" at Mavs games, at hockey games, even at medieval times. Dallas turned on its own team like it had been personally betrayed. And to be fair, it kind of had. But the worst part? It's not just that they traded away a generational superstar, it's that they've done everything possible to make it worse ever since. From cowardly press conferences to shady leaks and laughable excuses, the Mavericks haven't just embarrassed themselves. They might have nuked their entire future. This is what really happened, and why the Luka Dončić trade might go down as the single dumbest move in modern NBA history. The day the Mavs traded Luka, the city of Dallas imploded. Luka was more than just a star. He was the reason people still believed in the Mavericks. A five-time All-NBA first-teamer, at just 25, he had dragged the Mavs through the playoffs year after year, despite being surrounded by mediocrity. He wasn't just their best player, he was their player. From the moment he touched down in Texas, he embraced the city. He donated to local causes. He learned the culture. He celebrated wins like a local kid living the dream. And in return, the city loved him back. Not in a casual fan way, but in a deep, emotional, ride-or-die way. This wasn't just a basketball decision. It was a cultural earthquake. Luka was woven into the fabric of the city. He was the billboard, the face on the tickets, the guy parents told their kids about. You don't trade someone like that unless you've lost your mind or never had one to begin with. So when Nico Harrison shipped him off to the Lakers for an aging Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a single first-round pick in 2029, fans lost it. They didn't just complain, they revolted. Social media exploded. Hashtags trended for days. Season ticket holders demanded refunds. Some fans burned their Luka jerseys, not because they hated him, but because they couldn't handle the heartbreak of seeing him play for another team. The vibe wasn't "we're disappointed," it was "you betrayed us." And the front office, radio silence. For months. No accountability, no real press conference, no face the music moment, until one day, they decided to hold one. You'd think after months of backlash they'd finally speak up with honesty, maybe even admit they miscalculated. Instead, they held an invite-only closed-door media session with no cameras and no mics. That's not transparency, that's hiding. The press conference was so controlled it felt like a courtroom deposition. And when the quotes finally leaked, it was somehow even worse than fans feared. It didn't just show incompetence, it showed shame. A team that knew it screwed up and was hoping no one would notice. Nico Harrison's main defense for the trade: "Our philosophy is defense wins championships. This trade cements us as a defensive team." Sounds good, right? Until you realize the Mavs already had a top-tier defense. After trading for PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford last year, Dallas had the #1 defense in the NBA. And during the finals, Boston never scored more than 107 points. Dallas even held them to 84 in one game. So, no, defense wasn't the issue. What they needed was Luka's offense, his creation, his genius. But instead, Nico doubled down on an old-school cliché and used it to justify giving up a once-in-a-generation superstar. Let's talk about the return: AD, Max Christie, and one first-round pick from the Lakers. That's it. LA had 2 firsts they could have given up. They had Austin Reeves, they had Dalton Knecht, but Nico only negotiated with one team. He didn't even open the bidding war. It's not like Luka demanded LA, he didn't hold them hostage. The Mavs just voluntarily chose the weakest offer on the table. And then came the leaks. Anonymous Mavs sources started trashing Luka, calling him lazy, complaining about his weight, talking about his love of beer and hookah like they were exposing some massive scandal. Like that's gonna help? Luka just dropped 45 on them while crying his eyes out. It didn't make fans turn on Luka, it made them turn on the team. Even NBA legends chimed in. Charles Barkley called it basketball malpractice. Stephen A. Smith said Luka had every right to be furious. Around the league, people were stunned. Not just at the move, but at how unprepared Dallas was to justify it. Because here's the thing, Luka wasn't just Dallas's star. He was one of the league's cornerstones, a top 5 player, a walking triple-double, a face of the NBA for the next decade. You don't just move that guy unless you've got a can't-miss plan, and clearly Dallas didn't. Then came the weirdest quote of the entire saga. Team president Rick Welts got nostalgic. "When I was in Golden State, we had Monta Ellis. We traded him and gave the ball to Steph Curry. 4 titles later, it worked out." Wait, what? You're comparing Luka Dončić to Monta Ellis? If anything, Luka is Steph Curry in this story. He's the generational talent you build around, not ship out hoping to get lucky. Unless you've secretly got the next Steph stashed on the bench, that analogy isn't just wrong, it's offensive. It showed just how delusional the front office had become. They weren't making a calculated move, they were chasing a fairy tale. And just when you thought it couldn't get more embarrassing, Kyrie Irving tore his ACL. You'd think that would make NICO look worse. Instead, he used it as a shield. That's a championship caliber team, and you guys saw it for 2.5 quarters. Excuse me? You're defending the worst trade in franchise history with 2.5 quarters of basketball? Building around day-to-day Davis was already a massive risk. Blaming an injury and pretending your plan was perfect all along? That's just insulting. Especially when the team you gave up on had just made a finals run. Let's also talk about AD for a second. This is a guy who has never played more than 70 games in a season since 2018. His nickname isn't even a joke anymore. It's just a fact. He's great when healthy, but the key word is when. Dallas tied their entire future to a player who might not even be on the court when it matters. One journalist wasn't buying it. Tim MacMahon of ESPN showed up and put Nico Harrison on the ropes. "You've said this trade was about a 3 to 4 year window, but you also gave up control of your picks from 2027 to 2030. How does that make any sense?" Nico, can you repeat that? He had no answer, just repeated, "Defense wins championships like a broken record." It was clear to everyone, there's no plan, no vision, just damage control. But maybe Nico isn't the one pulling the strings. After Mark Cuban sold the team, billionaire real estate mogul Patrick Dumont took over day-to-day operations. He claims to be a huge basketball fan, but people close to the team say he's not. He once praised Shaq for his work ethic. He called the finals the championship games. That's not a fan, that's someone pretending. So when Nico said he wanted to trade Luka, Dumont reportedly laughed, then shrugged and said, "Well, you're the basketball guy." And just like that, the franchise's future was burned to the ground. Mark Cuban made some bad calls over the years. He let Steve Nash walk. He blew up the 2011 title team. He overruled his own GM to skip Giannis in the draft. He refused to extend Jalen Brunson. But as bad as those were, nothing compares to this. You don't trade a 25-year-old face of the league. You build a statue for him. You give him the keys to the city. Instead, the Mavs handed him over for scraps and trusted a guy who calls the finals championship games to fix things. The Mavs are now 13-20 since the trade. Ticket prices went up, public trust collapsed, season ticket holders are canceling in droves, former players are calling it one of the worst moves they've ever seen. There's even a growing conspiracy online that the team made the trade to tank for Cooper Flagg, a prospect who might not even leave Duke next year. That's where the fan base is mentally, hoping a teenager saves them from front office malpractice. But here's the cold truth. This isn't just about a bad trade. This is about burning down everything your franchise stood for. Loyalty, identity, competitiveness, gone. And when Luka lifts that trophy in a Lakers jersey surrounded by purple and gold, all Dallas will have is a press conference quote and an aging big man who's already missed 20 games. They didn't just trade a player, they traded their soul.
One click, big impact. Hit that subscribe button and join the squad. Your support keeps us going.